Hello, everyone. Well, here we are again. Once again, San Diego is raining. Wintertime in San Diego is a semi-arid and arid environment, which rains, every few weeks throughout the wintertime. And now it's been raining and storming and atmospheric rivers, and one place in California even had tornado warning. And it's been raining every single day now for a week. A little rain. Wake up in the morning, it's all wet. Soon, California or San Diego will become a tropical paradise, a rainforest. Then everybody will want to move here, right? When I moved here let's see, when I was going to chiropractic college in Davenport, Iowa, graduated in 1980. In my senior year, I flew out here to San Diego in a January with my wife at the time, Norma, who was born in San Diego, and her mom still lived here. So we came out to stay with her mom, tour around San Diego, visit a few chiropractors, because I realized that when I graduated, I could just sort of go anywhere, any state in the country. Where do you want to go? It was like too much to contemplate. I could set up shop any place I wanted and make a decent living because there's sick people everywhere. But we came out in January 1979 and stayed here for 2 weeks. On the day I left, towards the end of January, we spent the afternoon on the beach. It was 75 degrees in January. It was a really warm spell, but that happens. It gets really cold. All of a sudden it gets warm, then it gets cold. 75 degrees on the beach in San Diego in the afternoon. That evening at 9:30, we get on the plane and fly back to the Quad Cities, Davenport, Iowa. We land in the Moline Airport, and it was late at night. Actually, no, we landed at 9:30, so we must have left 8765 around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. 9:30 at night in Moline, we step off the plane, and it's 35 below zero in Iowa. That's 120 degrees colder than that morning on the beach in San Diego. So, a testament to the sort of resiliency of the human body to live in all kinds of different environments and thrive, from the northern reaches above Canada in the Northwest Territories, where it gets down to 50 below zero, no problem, to the equator in the tropical rainforests of Brazil, where it routinely gets to be 115 degrees and it's 98% humidity, and pretty mind-blowing how this system works. And studying the anatomy and physiology of this system is a real mind opener. It's right up there with my news feeds, feeding crazy things about quantum physics because all of it's here. Every law and rule that you could ever think of studying in the universe is in the body in miniature. So our experiences here on the planet are experiences that are, for the most part, driven through the experiences we have through our five senses. Five senses are stuck out into the world, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, stuck out into the world specifically to see if my life is being threatened. I'm monitoring my environment through a number of different channels tuned to different vibrational frequency pi wedges. So I get a view of the entire vibrational frequency environment, and I'm monitoring that environment for anything that's new, anything that's strange, non-ordinary, anything that changes abruptly. I have to pay attention. It could be the predator on the prowl. My autonomic nervous system under the hood that runs on automatic is geared specifically for this. Advertisers use that. You're on Facebook or something, and there's a column on the side here with advertisements, but one of them will be animated and will have something in there jiggling and moving, and you have to look, and when you look, it burns that logo into your retina. We all look. It's a flash. It's driven under the hood by a survival mechanism that our rational thinking minds are not in control of. And anytime you can identify one of those, you can sneak an advertisement into your subconscious mind that way. Now, back in my day when I was a young man, it was illegal. Subconscious advertising techniques were illegal. Now it's the run of the day. Back when I did move to California and set up my practice, after 8 years of being in Virginia and researching the sound work there, and I moved to California to pursue the sound work full time. And because I had sold my practice and sold my house, I had, a big chunk of money to use. And I opened up an impressive place that got a lot of press and made me a famous guy. It worked. So the universe said yes to me in a big way. And here we all are. And in those early days when I was using sound waves to heal the body and to entrain brain waves through headphones, I wanted to access part of that sound work as vibration-based in the physical body, the vibration sense network, which is in our skin. And that was the early development of my first sound table with big, huge, 10-inch, 12-inch sub-bass speakers built underneath the sounding board of this table. Later, as technology progressed, those speakers were replaced by high-precision, low-frequency transducers, which are speakers without the cone. The cone is designed to move back and forth and create air pressure waves that you can hear. And a transducer is meant to deliver the sound waves directly into your body through a solid, not through air. In other words, the transducer is the speaker housing without the cone, and what replaces the cone is sounding board that the thing is bolted to, and the sounding board is laying on its side and it's upholstered on the top, and you're laying on top of this sounding board, so the low frequencies are coming directly into contact into your body. It's the most efficient possible way to get the maximum level of vibration experience in the vibration sense network with the least amount of sound in the room, which was a practical good consideration, making these sound tables and sound chairs as a business. But I remember when I first was designing that and went back and reviewed my notes of anatomy and physiology of vibration sense, it was really astounding to me how, and not just me, that everybody seems to not notice that the largest sense organ that you've got, your skin, approximately 70 to 75 pounds in an average person, is sort of the unsung hero of the five senses. It's the one that's not noticed the most. When you think of the five senses, you're thinking of seeing and hearing, mostly, smelling, Those are the first three. But vibration sense, a sense of touch is something that most people don't notice, and probably because the physical body is sort of the odd man out uh, in the, as we talked before, in the Gurdjieff system of the three-brained being, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, the three primary perceptual modes that the brain uses to gather information and learn. So those are the three number one primary modes that the brain uses to gather information and process information to get information about the world: visual, auditory, kinesthetic body. People, personalities tend to gravitate to one of those three. There's visual type of people, there's auditory processors, and there's kinesthetic people. Here in Southern California, there's a lot of kinesthetic people. People out on the beach running and going to gyms and working out and doing this physical stuff. Not like, lab potatoes like me with the big brain and looking at computer screens and doing all kinds of research. And it's not a very physical thing to do. I have to, grab my ass and pull it off the chair and go off and exercise and make sure I walk around and do things, or my mind would dictate my body to just grow roots in one place and become a big tree of some kind. But that initial, I remember delving into becoming a professional making sound chairs and sound tables, where I really had to go and review my knowledge of this system, and then review my knowledge of nerve density networks for vibration sense. In other words, there are trillions of vibration sensors spread throughout my skin, trillions of them. They cluster in some parts more than they cluster in other parts. And the parts that are non-clustered tend to be on your back, places that you don't use or not aware of too much. The ones that are maximized are on your fingertips and your hands and your face and things like that. So when we're designing a sound table or a sound chair to deliver low frequencies in your body, the placement of those transducers, where they are on your body, is of maximum importance. If you place them correctly, you have an illusion your whole body is vibrating. If you move them a few inches and place them incorrectly, you have a hot spot of vibration, but nothing else seems to be vibrating. Part of the reason why, our sound tables and sound chairs are the best. Designed by a doctor, designed by a sound technician. We know what we're doing. It's also the idea behind the right and left stereo separation. You need to have right and left stereo separation to match how the body is designed. Everything in the body is right-left stereo separation, because stereo and 3D processing is a primal survival tool. That means my body is divided down the middle this way, mirrorized on both sides, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 2 hemispheres, 2 halves of the body, 2 halves of the spinal cord. So the sound table, sound chair had also to be divided right and left stereo. And we particularly needed to do that in order to match the information coming through the headphones, right? Because the headphones have also got these binaural beats, 2 tones slightly out of tune, where this one can't hear what this one is hearing, and that's essential to cause this to happen in the hemispheres. So if I can do the same thing in the sound chair or sound table and split it down the middle, so I've got essentially headphones for the body, now the processing of information in my body, the way I feel it, is the same information in sync with how I'm hearing it. And when we add 3D processing, where things spatialize and start moving around, when things are moving around through my stereo field, I need them to be moving through my body in sync with that, so that I'm fooling the body into thinking this experience is real, so it surrenders into it. the whole, idea here is to transform your state of consciousness. And in order to transform it, you have to let go of the anchors that you currently have in your ordinary reality that you're stuck in, that you're trying to get out of by using these techniques. So there are layers and layers of how we've designed the system in order for that to happen. So I have a new appreciation of the sense of touch ever since that day, because from one sense, it's my business on a constant basis, because we're constantly making improvements in these systems. And that, when I was sort of contemplating what this broadcast should be, a lot of cases I scrub my mind and come up with nothing. And that's not usually where it comes from. It comes from something that happens to me in that following week. Something in my news feed, some chance conversation, some this, some that, something happens. A lot of the times it happens in a dream. And in this case, it happened in a dream. And the dream was recalling those very first days, very exciting days of research into building our first sound table, which was done with speakers. And so basically we developed the most advanced speaker cabinet in the world. When we did it with engineers from the speaker company, on the phone with an engineer sitting in front of his computer running algorithms to design the interior space of that speaker cabinet and tune it properly so it was the most accurate tuning of a speaker cabinet he said he had ever done. But this was the medical use of sound. Those were the early days, where you're laying on two huge speaker cabinets with big bass speakers, essentially lifting the foam from an air pressure column. So you're actually floating on a pressurized column of air that was pushing up the foam upholstery. It was the crazy early days that we were doing back in the 90s, back in the early 90s. So today we honor the sort of unsung hero of the five senses, my sense of touch, and how important my sense of touch is, and how, as we will see, cosmic the sense of touch is. It's no slouch. And the level of sensitivity of the sense of touch is mind-blowing. And the sort of unnoticed importance of the sense of touch is something that gives healing and relaxation and emotional closeness, sense of touch, reaching out to touch our environment. And the environment is an infinite number of amazing textures, things to feel. If we even took the time just to do that, making a sort of touch meditation, so to speak. One of my favorite things is to pull your shoes and socks off and stand in the grass. Walk around, if it's just in your yard. That right there is an amazing and wonderful experience. Bare feet in the grass. So this sense of touch is mostly of all magnified in the fingertips. They're the most sensitive. And with good reason. I mean, we have to use these as tools. We're dexterous. We can make things, we can grab things, we can manipulate things. That's what sets us apart. is our ability to concentrate into the fingertips and, make things happen. So it's important. I remember when I was going to art school. So I went to art school in 1977 in Boston. And I remember, no, actually it wasn't art school. It was chiropractic school. Sorry, that was a different one. I've had these sort of shamanic masters and all these different experiences I've had. One of my favorite ones was art school. Actually, I should probably tell you that one because I mentioned it. So in art school, the teacher comes in to drawing class, the very first drawing class we've ever had. And he comes in and says, clean your desk off, get out a piece of paper and your pencil. And I'm thinking, what's this? And he goes, okay, we're gonna do a self-portrait. And we're all going, okay, that's pretty cool, self-portrait. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, there's no mirror. Yeah, now you're starting to get it. It's going, yeah, we're all going to do a self-portrait. So begin. So I grab my drawing pencil. Let's pretend this is a pencil. And I'm ready to start. And it's going, that's how you hold a pencil when you're writing something. We're not writing, we're drawing. So you hold the pencil like this. So I'm going, oh, okay, a self-portrait with no mirror, holding the pencil like this. And we're just about ready to start. He goes, the other hand. So now it's like, oh, a self-portrait with no mirror with the wrong hand. Okay. And so now we're just ready to start. And he goes, eyes closed. So it's like, what? No mirror, left hand, pencil weird, with my eyes closed, drawing a self-portrait. How the hell am I supposed to do this? And so you're picturing that piece of paper and you're picturing where the pencil point is as it comes down. And once it hits that paper, you're trying to hold its position as you draw whatever you're drawing, all of held in your mind. And when you're done and you open your eyes, you have a Picasso drawing because the eyes are both on one side of the head, one's drifting off into space, and their ears are like, and the hair is kind of half off your head. And it's like, whoa. However, it was an amazing, liberating experience to show just how many rules we have about everything. The rule is if I'm going to draw a picture, then it has to be a certain way. It has to be in a certain perfection. It has to be, and he's going, no. Break all those rules. Break every rule you can even think of. Draw, hold that pencil with your foot. Break all the boxes. Now you get a glimpse of what it might be if you could become an artist and see the world with fresh eyes with no boxes. That was an incredible sort of lesson as a young sort of budding artist. So now we teleport, years later into chiropractic college, and you go through the academic years where you learn anatomy and physiology and lab science and biochemistry and brain science and all the rest. But there comes a point when you get into clinical science where you're actually going to have to start touching people and learning techniques in order to adjust vertebra and do physical activities in a clinical setting with a patient, when now it's a whole different ballgame, right? And one of the classes we had was called palpation. What is palpation? Palpation is a class learning to use your fingers to touch. How crazy is this idea? That's what I said to myself. I thought, whoa, this is crazy. The class in learning how to use my fingers to touch. I mean, I already know how to do that. Of course, as I was to find out, that's ridiculous. Even with my present level of sort of unbelievable presence in my fingertips, to be able to, to feel your neck and feel down through the muscles and know exactly which muscles I'm touching, and then down underneath to feel the bones and the segments of the bones and the joint of the bones to determine whether the vertebra is rotated or not. That's quite the mastery of your sense of touch in your fingertips, because you can visualize it in your head as you feel it with your fingers. So, the first day of that class, we're all sitting around and the teacher comes in and says, clear off your desk and take out a piece of paper and your pen. Now, immediately what comes to mind is art class, back in the 60s. But I'm thinking, no, we're not going to be drawing here. This looks like a quiz. How could we have a quiz if we haven't even had class? And he's going, okay, so what I want you to do, everybody in the class, what you to do is I want you to take hair and pluck that hair out and stick that hair underneath that piece of paper and see if you can feel it. And we all went, no way. I mean, what? You crazy? And so I'm starting to, skate my hand across the paper. I can't feel anything. But let's say that that's the hair underneath that paper. And if I'm running my hands this way, I can't feel it. But if I run my hands perpendicular to it, and I do the pressure just right, I can feel the ridge of that hair underneath this piece of paper. And I remember just like going, whoa, when I could do it, I could feel it. Then I could hear other students in the class going, whoa, 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 and everybody's getting it, right? And now I began to realize that this was going to be a very cool and interesting class, because I now just got in touch with something that I didn't think I could do by centering my attention and consciousness on my fingertips in a way I had never done before. And he says by the end of this class, you'll be able to feel that hair through a number of sheets of paper. And we all just kind of said, no way. But then we realized, wait a second, we didn't think we could do this one. So back to the miraculous nature of, this right here, the fingertip, and the trillions of sensors inside the skin layers of this fingertip. As a matter of fact, here's how it works. There are 4 major skin sensors in the skin, buried in different depths. Meissner's corpuscles up towards the top, towards the surface of the skin. Pacinian corpuscles way down deep under layers of the skin. Ruffini's corpuscles, which is sort of mid-layer. Merkel's discs, which are also up towards the top. So Meissner's and Merkel's are the kind of things with light touch and deeper pressure into your skin is these Pacinian corpuscles. Now, there are free nerve endings throughout that do give a sense of distortion, but they're not classified as a vibration sense nerve bundle. These are all for vibration sense. That's the 4. And so here they are in drawing form. And down here, whether you can see this or not, are all 4 of them, and the frequency range that each one of them is sensitive to. So Merkel's receptors, so here's Merkel's receptors up here at the top, 0.3 to 3 hertz. That's what these are tuned to. And the next ones are Meissner's corpuscles, this one right here, which is just under that. That's 3 hertz to 40 hertz. And then Ruffini's cylinders, which are over here, which are recorded at the sort of the mid-depth, those are 15 hertz to 400 hertz. And then the Pacinian corpuscles way down deep are sensitive from 10 hertz to 500 hertz. So when you look at this whole chart down here at the bottom, the entire range of vibration sense in the skin is 0.3 hertz to 500 hertz. That's the range of what this system considers to be vibration sense. We can see within a narrow bandwidth of color electromagnetic frequencies from 400 and 750 nanometers. We can hear vibrational frequencies between 20 and 20,000 hertz. And we can feel with this sense organ 0.3 hertz to 500 hertz. The difference with this organ among all the rest of them is that these are the electromagnetic spectrum, and this one is the spectrum of sound. Touch is mechanical vibration. Sound, that's what this one is tuned to. So as I've talked before, that the universe is made of two grand forces in the yin-yang of all creation. That one of those halves of the yin-yang is the electromagnetic spectrum and photons and the law of three, so to speak, positive, negative, and neutral. And this one is stuck into the law of seven, octaves, harmonics, sound, which is pure energy moving through a medium at a certain frequency that is not electromagnetic. So this is the two. This is the one half, and this is the other half, all the rest of these. When we look at how this works, so here's the spinal cord here, and you can see the spinal cord has been cut, and we've got this funny H-shaped cluster here. That's the gray matter. The white matter is bundles all around that. Those bundles are tracks which run up and down the spine, carrying information either to the brain or back down to the body. So the four bundles of vibration sense buried in the skin are sending information into the posterior quadrant of the spinal cord, into these two tracks that go up to these neurons here, gracilis and cuneatus. These two neurons, which is the first place in the brainstem where 80% of the fibers cross over to the opposite side, go up through the upper brainstem into the thalamus, and there's two of these, grand central station, which routes these signals for finer discrimination out into the cortex from there. That's how this network works. Out here, when it hits the brain, it goes to a very specific region of the brain. This area right here called this post-central gyrus. There's the pre-central gyrus here on both sides, and the post-central gyrus here. This is the sensory cortex, and this is the motor cortex. So when the body wants to send signals down into your body to make your arm move or to use your fingers, it comes from a zone in here. When you're receiving information, sensory information from the body, it's here. And vibration sense is the same. It's called a homunculus. So here's the post-central gyrus. A gyrus is the noodle. A sulcus is the grooves. And so here's the gyrus of the post-central gyrus. And you can see that all the sensory information from various parts of the body is laid out in a very linear fashion, one thing after another, that sort of looks like a body laid out. And the sensitivity of different regions to vibration are represented by this figure called a homunculus, which exaggerates the areas of the body that get the lion's share of the most discrimination of vibration sense and touch. Fingers, hand, palms, lips, tongue, face, feet. The rest is about the same, except for the genital organs. So here you can see a sort of a better view of that. So we've got the sensory cortex and the post-central gyrus that comes and looks like this. The homunculus looks like this. And the motor cortex looks like this. Pretty similar. Hands, fingertips, face, lips, teeth, tongue, face, lips, hands, fingertips. Pretty much the same. Signals coming in, signals going out. So when you go to a doctor and they do this kind of vibration test with a tuning fork, this is 64 hertz right here. So when you bang the tuning fork and you put it, say, on your toe, you can feel it. You can feel it coming. You can actually hear that tone. You're hearing it through bone conduction, through a completely different mechanism, bypassing the ear completely, and resonating the cochlea of the inner ear, which sits in solid bone, petrous portion of the temporal bone, no trabecula. Every bone in your body has got the spongy-like openings in it, except for one little area where the inner ear cochlea is housed, which has no trabecula, solid bone, so it amplifies the sound through a solid. So bone conduction, you can hear it. That means through bone conduction, you can hear 0.3 to 500 hertz. When Beethoven went deaf, he composed 3 symphonies when he was deaf, couldn't hear a thing. And how he did that was put a metal rod on the piano and attach that rod to his skull so he could hear up to 500 hertz of the music that he was playing. So whichever nerve is in the big toe is the one that carries this vibration information up to the spinal cord, and that's what's called the dermatomes. So each dermatome has a swath of skin that the nerves supply that carries the information of, say, vibration sense up to the spinal cord and up to the brain. And so touching the toe would be, down here at L5, this one, coming in the posterior spinal cord. But the sensitivity of touch and the meaning of touch in the larger sense is, where it's really at. The mechanics of how it works is cool. Most people don't know what that is and haven't thought about it for years if they do. You'd be surprised how many people have no idea that vibration sense is separate from hearing. That you can feel vibrations of 0.3 to 500 hertz even if you're stone deaf. That still, this is active and is working. But the constellation of the unseen nature of our sense of touch that is continually and constantly going on all over our body, most of which is delegated to something called accommodation. So accommodation means that my brain has got a limited amount of energy to use in a given day to get all the tasks done that have to be done, with extra for me to use to imagine and think and make music and talk to you and do other, kinds of other things. It's a conservation system. It's an ecological system. It's always trying to get the most work with the least amount of energy expended. So it's always trying to get double duty out of things. And so anything that is not directly related to the task at hand, any kind of data that is not changing, disappears from the system. I don't waste life energy processing information from that area anymore. If I know it's not a threat and I know it's not doing me specifically anything super good, it's neutral, then it disappears. That's accommodation. When I first sit down on this seat, when you first sit down in your chair today, new information fires to your brain from the sensors, those 4 sensors in your skin from your butt, right? New information, my butt just did something, it's sitting on a chair. Is this good, bad, or indifferent? Well, it's good because I'm sitting, but after a while, I don't need to process that information. It essentially is neutral. It's not bad. So after a few minutes, your butt disappears out of your field. It just came back because I mentioned it. You do a double check. Is my butt still there? And then whoosh, delegate it away to the closet. And we do that with everything that we can, with hearing, with seeing, right? I focus on something and the out of focus periphery that I'm not paying attention to sort of disappears, particularly if it's non-changing. If anything in my environment wiggles or makes a movement, I have to pay attention. That's the survival mechanism. But if it's non-changing, like the back of this room, and you're looking at my face, the back of this room has disappeared from your whole field until I just mentioned it, and you do a double check and check it out. We do that with ourselves. It's the biggest thing as far as transforming consciousness and awakening out of the stupor of the hypnosis that we live in our daily ordinary lives. Our ordinary lives and all the ordinariness in it, the repetitive parts that are constantly repeating, are accommodated. We accommodate that. I accommodate myself. I don't see myself here any longer. I'm just witnessing something through a couple of television screens. I'm witnessing things happening, and I react to those things, and I do things, and but none of that curls back to me where I realize that I'm looking out of my eyeballs, experiencing this and doing this, right? A concept we talked about with the Gurdjieff broadcast, that people are asleep, and waking up is a conscious effort to unasleep yourself and pay attention and knock the walls of the box down that you're in. So it's a similar sort of thing as this accommodation. Like I've got clothes on, and when I first put my clothes on, all the skin sensors are firing off and going, whoa, new information, new information. And the brain goes, I know what that is. That's a shirt. And every time I move, it's going to create new information firing off from the skin sensors that something's happening. And my brain has already cataloged that this is non-essential. It's no problem. It's accommodated. I don't even feel it. I don't feel the pants against my leg. I don't feel the shirt on my chest. It's disappeared out of my field. I don't feel the shoes on my feet, the socks. The body has a way of cutting corners and exiting out unnecessary information processing. It's when it happens to me as a human being, as a living entity in a cosmic perspective, that I fall asleep to that I accommodate to me, myself, in the mirror. That's where it becomes a problem. That's where it becomes conscious labor and intent, conscious intent to wake up, to fight that, to fight the accommodation of my life, to remain as permanently awake as I possibly can to the experience I'm having here in this grand, amazing, mind-boggling scenario that I'm in of being alive in all of this. But touching another person conveys something, conveys many things. It's one of the essential characteristics that we all need and we all strive for, we all yearn for. And there is a spiritual aspect to the sense of touch, a meditation of touch, as we, follow our path through this unbelievable, mind-blowing, amazing world, a world of levels of detail, of texture and color and smell and touch, like this. This could be a meditation in action. Nothing more than walking through the grass with bare feet and waking up to the fact that you are here in this amazing, beautiful environment of living things you share with it. The emotional importance of the sense of touch. Because ultimately it all boils down to, who do you love and who loves you back? And the rest of all of it is a stage set for that grand story. And the more people that you have in your life that you love and love you back, your lovers, your children, your family, your friends, your deep friends, circles of friends that go out from deep to more superficial. It's a network of touch. Here in California, everybody hugs each other. Handshakes are sort of a funny thing. In business, we do handshakes. Everybody else in Southern California hugs. There's something that is deeply nurturing that's expressed through physically touching another person. There's something magical that happens there. There's something cosmic that happens there. There's something electromagnetic that happens there. Lovers and friends and family and children. Sense of touch is sort of an unrecognized deep part of that. And it's also like one of the first experiences that is needed and necessary when we're first born and we pop out into this world from the enclosed environment we've been living in for 9 months. Alone, didn't know there was somebody else. All of a sudden I realized there's many, many, many somebody else's, and they're all out there. But the primary one is my mother, who I've been in contact with on the inside for all this time, but didn't quite know it. This concept of skin-to-skin contact as soon as a baby is born is ultra importance. There have been studies done of children who've had, severe diseases and had to be taken away immediately and put in an incubator, or, preemie children and children with hypoxia of the brain or some kind of, genetic defect that they have to be put on life support someplace they miss this critical part here. The skin-to-skin contact part, with devastating psychological results, by the way. I've dealt with those patients. It all traces back to this in many people. There's a therapeutic type of touch. It's why massage is so popular, particularly among kinesthetic types. Non-kinesthetic types don't like massage too much, but massage is the whole industry of the science of touch, and touching lightly and touching a medium and touching deeply, activating all of those vibration sensors and working out the kinks and muscles and fascia and all the rest. The light touch that happens with something like polarity therapy, where you lightly touch the skin and you feel for pulses on the right, left, and you use your body to synchronize those pulses in various areas of the body. And then there's the sort of spiritual level of touch. In other words, you bring a high level of awareness to your fingertips and your skin, and you pay close attention to what's going on there as a meditation in its own right, a vibration sense meditation. A meditation centered on touch as the focal point. You can have Om as a focal point. You can have your breathing as a focal point. You can have a mantra as a focal point. But touch is a tried and true focal point, even though it hasn't been enumerated as touch meditation. It's not recognized as that, but that's exactly what it is. This right here is the focal point of the touching of these two thumbs together. That's the focal point. Everything else disappears, and I have to keep cognizant to hold my hands in that position, because if I fell asleep, my hands would fall apart and these would come unconnected. This is a touch meditation. It takes conscious effort to hold my muscles in this configuration and to keep the pressure the same on these fingers. That is out and out touch meditation. Which brings up another point of the cosmic mudras, which is all kinds of different configurations of holding the hands and touching the fingers in different ways. But ultimately, where this is all heading is touching something that is energy itself, because touch itself is energy, is an energy form. It generates electrical impulses into the brain, but there is a sensitivity to things that are invisible, that you can't see, that you can touch, or that some people can touch. I believe all of us have that ability. Some people are born with a natural ability to be able to feel energy fields, and some are not. It can be trained. The sensitivity of your hands and your fingers, fine-tune it so you can feel these energy fields, which lends itself to a whole range of therapeutic approaches, which not only feel the energy fields with your hands, but exude energy from your hands. We've talked about the morphogenic field before. The morphogenic field is a term we use to describe the field of energy around the body. It's an extension of the electrical energy of the nervous system. The brain is an electrical generator with its own field of energy that extends away from the physical body. Many cultures and disciplines recognize this field and give it other names. When people discuss auras, chakras, life force, chi, they are possibly talking about this same energy field. Now, I had talked once before about the electromagnetically shielded room at the California Institute for Human Science, this place, where I was on the faculty for 6 years. This had PhD programs for human science, for psychology, for a whole host of different subjects, with just a kick-ass schedule of courses that sort of blew my mind when I first found out about it. I remember they had a course in Tibetan medicine, in shamanism, in Ayurveda, in acupuncture called the AMI machine, which they had developed, which the founder of that school had developed in Japan. The acupuncture meridian identification device, which was part of a huge research project that had been going on for decades in Japan and then was brought over here to continue. And the idea of that was to chart on a computer the body's chi energy moving through the meridians and graph it on a computer, so you could read the chi energy in each meridian and get a balanced picture of what your meridians look like. So all of these lines, meridian lines that run up and down the body, are potential spaces of electromagnetic flow. There's no physical tube there, These represent lines of lowered skin resistance to electrical flow that runs through various levels of the skin. Some dive deep into the body around the organs, and some come close up to the surface where these points are. But each of these points tends to be, in its normal phase, closed off. It's non-conductive. But if a certain part of the body gets imbalanced, the body has the ability to lower the skin resistance of selected points to draw electromagnetic energy into the channel and route it to the associated organs or glands or muscles or wherever it needs to go in a constant balance of electromagnetic force coursing through all of these potential lines of skin resistance flowing through the body. You can measure those lines with a meter, a skin resistance meter. But at California Institute, the idea was to build a shielded room. All of these walls are made of copper. The door is copper. Floors and ceiling are copper. It's hermetically sealed, so when you close the door, you are in 100% electromagnetically shielded room. And it's 100% dark space, no photons, because interaction of photons generate electromagnetic fields. So it has to be light-free, photon-free, and it has to be electromagnetic-free. So once you have that configuration, you can put a photon counter in this room through a special shielded port out here. So the electronics are on the outside. They're never in the room like this when you're doing an experiment. These are all on a shelf outside and plugged in through this shielded port. So in this case, you would have a photon counter plugged through the shielded port. You close the door and you put a person in there and you fire up the photon counter and you get a reading of photons coming off your body. One photon per second per centimeter squared. Every square centimeter all over your body has one photon coming off every second. You're glowing with photons. The biophotonic field. Once you can see that, then all of a sudden you can see that there are 7 areas that is 100 to 1,000 times more photons coming off. The 7 chakra zones have 100 times more photons coming off, or 1,000 times more photons coming off than the residual coming off of every place else. So all of a sudden now you've got a scientific way of measuring that something's there, something's going on there. You can't measure the subtle energy field of the chakra itself, but you can measure its effect on physicality at a subquantum level. It's affecting atoms. Atoms are affecting photons, and we can see that result. So now all of a sudden it's a new ballgame, and it's why California Institute for Human Science is a research institute specifically for researching the unresearchable with standard scientific instrumentation. This concept of a biophoton field coming off the body is profound, and it's for real. So the idea that you can measure the chi energy, balance of each of these meridians and print it out on a computer sheet is pretty mind-blowing. And I did a lot of work with that. I got trained, I got certified in that, and I was using it to measure the effect of biotuning with sound waves on the meridian system and how that could help balance the meridian. Not only is it balancing the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, it's balancing the chi energy in all the meridians as well. So that's part of what I was doing at CIHS. This concept that you can train yourself to feel this field with a finer degree of expertise of the sensory apparatus in your fingertips and your hands is a big one. There's thousands and thousands of people all over the world who do this kind of therapy. CIHS was there to measure that to see if we could figure out, what was going on, prove that something true and real is happening. Not that we had any doubts, but this concept of touching energy fields is pretty mind-blowing for healing. Healing touch, Reiki, things like that, polarity therapy, using energy fields, balancing energy fields. And when we land back to the regular touch, the regular touch of I touch this, I touch this, I touch you, you touch me. There's physical things I can touch. We see that even that is weird. We never actually touch anything. What is the sense of touch? What's happening from a sort of a scientific standpoint? Why physics says you can never actually touch anything. So yeah, it's all got to do with atoms and electromagnetically charged particles, right? So we know that we suspect that there's some kind of a science behind when I touch something, how come it seems solid and if this is all in my mind from Buddhist standpoint, if this is all in my mind, how come I can touch it? It's dream fingers touching dream hands with a dream sensation. We know that under the hood, it's all this fancy schmancy science and equations, and somehow at the center of it all is E equals mc squared and the atom and the law of three, positive, negative, and neutral, right? We've got the proton, which is positively charged, the neutron, which is negative, which is neutral, and the electrons, which are negative. Positive, neutral, negative. Little magnets spinning around. We know that this negative charge of the electrons are being drawn towards the oppositely charged proton. Like two opposite poles of a magnet want to stick together. But there's a repelling force coming from this nucleus that is sort of poorly understood. The closer the electron gets to snapping together with the proton, the faster it starts to spin. And it ends up with a stable configuration of spinning, which is centrifugal force, balancing the attractive force between them, and that becomes a stable atom. However, when the compounds that make my skin and my cells of my fingertips are formed of atoms, and atoms have these spinning electrons with a negative charge, and I want to go and touch something like this phone, and I go to touch this phone, it seems solid because the atoms in the phone also have a negative charge, and the two negatives are repelling each other like two same pole magnets repel each other. So essentially, from an atomic world, it's not possible for the electron and the proton to ever touch. If you start forcing the issue, which is what fusion is all about, fusion reactors, that's what they're trying to do. They're putting huge amounts of pressure that are putting the squeeze on the atom, and the electrons and the protons are being forced to get closer and closer and closer, and that becomes an explosive force of energy. So in reality, when I go to touch something here, and basically all the atoms and the trillions of atoms in my fingertips and the trillions of atoms that make this are repelling each other, and I put more and more pressure, it's putting the squeeze on the atoms, and they have a huge amount of force of resistance, then things appear to be solid. That's how that works. It's an illusion of solidity. This is a little blurry, but it's the best I could do. Science tells us that everything we can see and touch is composed of unimaginably small building blocks called particles. Our bodies are made of them too, which means that on a micro scale, our bodies behave quantum mechanically. We've covered this in great detail. 99% of the atom is space. Atoms have a nucleus where most of the mass is, with the electrons buzzing around on the outside. No matter how hard they try, two electrons can never touch. They just hover about 10 to the minus 8 meters above each other. In physicals, particles are partly attracted to other or repulsed by other particles based on their charge. Electrons are attracted to protons but are repulsed by other electrons. Sensation of touch is arguably a grand illusion, created by the brain's way of interpreting interactions between our electrons and the electromagnetic field. The brain's interpretation of electromagnetic interactions where like charges repel our sense of touch. And so we refine that, we pay more attention to that, we refine that sense of touch, and all of a sudden we can feel the electromagnetic fields in general coming off the body. That's the sensitivity of being able to feel these energy fields. Underneath the hood, we all also know that it's much more profound and mysterious than that. Convergent and divergent electromagnetic mass, energy, momenta interactions is what touch is. Which means as soon as we have atoms and we've got protons, electrons, and neutrons, we have the quantum field. And we've got dark matter and dark energy and cosmic electromagnetic fields in action underlying the simplest thing that we can touch. It breaks open the entire magnificent cosmic field itself, which is essentially what this touch is repelling of quantum values of the convergent drawn together and divergent repelled apart electromagnetic mass energy momenta interactions. That's us and the universe with the sense of touch, touching the heart and soul of the universe with your mind. It doesn't have to be your fingertips. You can touch things with your thought. I can touch you in this conversation. We're touching each other all the time. Through all this series of live streams that we've been doing, we are touching each other's consciousness through paying attention to what we're discussing here, and then touching each other's consciousness in a scientifically aligned way when we do the brainwave entrainment soundtrack with headphones at the end. We are touching one another's consciousness and aligning those consciousnesses together in a very precise way. Touching the, quote, untouchable. Interacting with the cosmos in a new conscious way of touching. Touching amorphous vibrational fields that you can't see or smell or hear in any other way. Your consciousness residing here, pinpoint accuracy in the tips of your fingers. And what we're touching, it's information. You know, it's not a new idea that all of the electromagnetic fields in the universe and all the complexities and the layers and the spanning waves and all the rest of it is just a massive, gigantic, infinite information conduit. What's the information? It's a thought, a dream, an idea of what would happen if I just let all the math run wild in an infinite number of parallel universes all at once and make every story that you could ever imagine in the mind of God all happen at once everywhere, forever. One of those stories is me and my whole life, what appears to be in slow-mo for me. in every scale of size and every scale of time and every scale of space you can imagine, in every story that could ever be told, lived, sedimented out of the energy field in the stories of you and me. Touching that with your mind, touching it with your heart, touching it with each other where it becomes more powerful. There's power in numbers. We start to align our focus, align our consciousnesses together. We can penetrate into depths of the universal field that we don't have access individually. That's why we're all in this together. Aligning consciousness for a higher purpose benefits everyone, benefits every individual involved, opens doorways to higher levels of information and influence into the grand universal quantum field, to mold the universe into a new idea. Something we dream up together. Something the universe has never seen before. The universe gives us a wide palette of colors and a blank canvas. And we go into certain states of consciousness, and we align ourselves together in order to paint a new picture on that canvas. Hopefully a picture of wisdom and empathy and holding and touching one another and making it a concept of what heaven on earth could look like or be, refining our vision of that and doing it together in this sort of scientific, crazy Southern California madman with a ponytail idea of using science and technology and brain entrainment in order to align us to create some kind of huge thunderclap in the universe and make change. And that's why we're here, and that's time for headphones. So here we go. Headphones, please. Take a big breath and touch your hands together in some kind of mudra. Concentrate on the sense of touch. Here we go. Thank you for all being here. Um, I'm going to leave the chat open for a bit for people to converse, make comments. Thank you again for being here with me. It's my great pleasure and honor and joy to be with you every week. So I'll see you next Sunday. Have a good week. Reach out and touch someone that you haven't heard from or conversed with for a while. Your task for the week. Thank you.